Hi, this is Farrell. Welcome to Robot Todd. This is part 4, pages 2 and 3. These are sketchbook pages I had where I was working on ideas for part 0, which is going to come out after I'm done with part 5. I originally was going to put it out before I did issue 1, but life and stuff happened and I just realized that I wanted to do it later. I was getting ready for a show that's currently up at Floating World right now. So I decided to do these watercolor pieces. I did 8 of them, and you'll see in the video at least 7 of them in the pencil stages, and then later I'll show the finished watercolors and the wall that I hung them on. And it's up until July 3rd, so if you're in the Portland area and want to stop by, you can see my art in person and buy some or just look at it, whatever, in the original state that it's in. So these are thumbnails that I did for the pages that I'm working on in this video, pages 2 and 3. You can see that I slightly refined them, and it doesn't really look like anything like this, which is the pencil state. Now this is before I added any word balloons or text or anything like that. And apparently before I added any drawings, I just ruled out the panels based off a script that I have in a text document. And normally I would add word balloons first. You can see that I'm starting to rough in the word balloons on the page 2 and then 3 a little bit. And this is because I'm working out the dialogue, like what I want the characters to be saying. I have them mostly written out, what I want them to be saying and what I want to be, how the story I want to be telling. But as I'm drawing it, as I'm penciling it, a lot of times writing it, I'm like, I don't really feel like that's right. I think that like I could tweak this or tweak that or add something, or I don't really want to talk about this part now, so I'll take that out. And a lot of it is just sort of the characters, like what I feel like how the characters would talk or wouldn't talk. In the case of Robot Todd, he doesn't do a lot of talking. I mean, he can talk, but he doesn't do a lot of talking. So these are the Nephilim, and this is a page from the Wrenchies, and this is a page from my sketchbook where I was trying to remember what they looked like. So I redrew them. And this is actually a sketchbook page that I incorporated into Proxima Centauri. I'm showing you all this just to show that I actually doodled it on the side of the page, just because they're just briefly shown in the last panel there. But these are again panels from the Wrenchies, and I wanted to revisit it in this story because the idea is that SEPT is from one of those silver spheres, orbs. Let's call them orbs. I think I call them several different things in the story. And here I am lettering the pages. Normally I letter them after I'm done coloring, but this time I spent so much time, I mean, weeks on the dialogue part, that I just wanted to hurry up and get the lettering down. And I didn't have to change anything in Photoshop, which is a big plus to doing it this way. I did actually change one where I took out one little article out of it, but there's the finished letters there. And here I'm watercoloring one of those pieces for the show. I'm watercoloring West, and I don't have my gouache set out. I'm just using watercolors this time because it's mostly just blue, opaque white, and a bit of yellow and some black. I believe I had a black background. I'm using a pretty small brush here. It's actually the brush that I use to ink with, but it's pretty worn out from inking. The inking, I feel like I can get maybe like, I don't know, 4 or 5 pages out of a brush before it starts to get a little wonky if I'm doing a lot of inking, and I'm also using it for other projects too. I think they're about like $20 or something like that. So I try to get the most life out of them that I can. And there's the sort of first stage of the watercolors. You can see I'm slowly adding more black to the background. And this is the finished product that you'll see it. You can see it Floating World Comics if you go there in person. So here I'm back on the page, working on page 2 from part 4. I keep calling them issues, but I really want to get in the habit of calling them part, because the idea is eventually they're going to be in a trade collection, like a big book with all 5 issues. Plus part 0 and SEPT and EMBER are all going to be in there. So here I'm inking with Raphael 8404, number 2, excuse me. I used to use number 4 for years, like maybe like 20 years I used number 4s. But now I'm working smaller, and it's just easier to use the number 2. I like the line quality a little better with the number 2. I feel like around here is when I sort of messed up on the page 3. The Robot Tod's head was a little off. So here we got Fern Fells. I based this off a skateboarding picture I saw of this girl at the Olympics doing some kind of trick, and thought that would be a cool reference photo. So yeah, you can see here the face. I think I ended up, for some reason, those pages are switched. That's page 3 on the left and page 2 on the right. You can see the lines on Robot Todd's face. I was trying to figure it out. I think I did it a little asymmetrical, and I wanted his face to look more symmetrical. So I ended up painting that first, because I was trying to cover it up with the opaque white and gouache, yellow gouache. So I keep revisiting it, going back to it, and like trying to get those lines. I don't want to mess with any of this in Photoshop is the thing. I want the original pages to stand on their own, and hopefully sell them eventually, use them as part of an incentive for the crowdfunding for the collection of these. I'm going to put them out as issues first, then collect them into a trade. But when I release the trade, I'd like to do like a nice hardcover or something like that initially, and have like a crowdfunder for that. Okay, so you can see here they're partially colored, the pages. I got the first panel nearly done there. And these colors took me several hours and various sessions. From the start, I was thinking those 2 panels on page 3, I wanted the backgrounds just to be white. A lot of times I end up overworking these pages, or as I'm doing the video, I look at the start of them and like, I like that. I think to myself like, oh, if only I had kept it in that state. So I decided with this one just to leave those 2 panels with my original idea of just, when I was drawing it even, I thought, oh, I want them to sort of be like floating in this like thought space. Like they're having this discussion, and it's kind of ignoring the whole world around them, those like creatures outside the window and everything. And just be focused on their conversation. Like Sept is telling this personal story about where they come from, the orbs in the sky, and I wanted them to be like, ignoring the little creatures outside and everything else going on. I enjoy that when I'm reading a comic, just to give my eyeballs a rest, to have some negative space and the white of the paper showing through rather than a bunch of busy stuff going on in the background. On this page, you can see that I was adding, I don't know, you might be able to see it. This time lapse goes so fast. But I was adding some tape in between the gutters just so I'd have less to muck with in Photoshop. And the Photoshop aspect wasn't as difficult as it normally is. As I mentioned previously, I only changed one word. So what I do is I'll go in and cut all the letters out of the word balloons and try to clean up all the color that's spilled over into the word balloons. And I'll put it on a different document and mess with the levels until it gets to a state of the just black and white that I like, where there's no like weird little crud or gray areas. I'll go in and erase, zoom in really, really close. And then I'll go and paste it back into the word balloons on another layer until I'm happy with the placement of everything, and I'll shuffle things around and, nudge stuff. But the only thing I really deleted this time was the last panel where it says at Anne. I just changed it to at early age. And I felt like it sounded nicer. It sounded a little, when I talked it out, like I'd actually read the dialogue out loud to myself, and I had my partner help me out with that too. Just be like, does this sound okay? It's sort of like when I'm listening to the BBC or something like that, when they say, instead of the way I would say something, if like this person was taken to the hospital, they'll say was taken to hospital. And I did that with that last panel where it said at early age rather than at an early age. Not only was it looked really clumped, when I was writing it, I didn't realize that it was that cramped, but as I was looking at it and when I was doing the Photoshop stuff. It felt too cramped. So here's the finished page. This is before I cleaned it up in Photoshop. This is after I cleaned up Photoshop. And you can see there the face that's all fixed. And here is the finished watercolors that are up at Floating World Comics. We got West and Wilder and Robot Todd here. And if you'd like to see these, you can go in person to Floating World Comics in the Lloyd Center up till July 3rd. And if you can't see these in person, if you live in a different place, it's not convenient, I'll probably be, whatever's left, they're there all on the wall, selling these on my Patreon or something. So if you want to check out my Patreon, go there, and you can read all the Robot Todd pages over there too. And here's the finished pages again, all cleaned up. And here are a list of all the books that I've done. Most of these you can get on So Feral Books in our store here. And that's it for the video. Oh yeah, don't forget about my Patreon where you can read all these Robot Todd pages. Thanks for watching. Bye.